What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Captain Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesFromSecurity, new one.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.
This story's called, How I, a newly hired LP officer, ruined a guest's evening plans. After listening to r/tell a few of these stories, I thought it was about that time that I say my piece to clear my mind. Obligatory, this was not today. This was, in fact, roughly 7 years ago. This incident didn't have a lot of dialogue, but I'll do my best to make it easy to follow and understand. Warning, this tale involves the unknown aftermath of Kid Diddler's attempts to have his way with a young girl. Back in 2013, I used to work as a member of a housekeeping for a very upscale resort hidden away in rural America. One morning, my boss came out and informed us that other departments were looking for people who were interested in cross-training and getting more hours. At this time, my wife just had our first child, and I went back into college after leaving the military. So I thought this was an awesome way to step up and provide for my tiny family. Fast forward 2 months, and I was finally given a position within the loss prevention team. I was thrilled. Now, I worked the weekends doing overnights. This was their way of letting the other 2 guys that were holding the fort together by themselves get some time off and, in short, give me a trial by fire. 2 birds, 1 stone, and it worked out great. I grew used to the 16-hour days when I was pulling doubles and slowly grew familiar with the ins and outs of being part of the LP team. But if everything in life has taught us all one thing, nothing that's good lasts forever. One night, I get into work and discover I'm working with the team's oddball. A good guy. Just imagine a tall, bald, teenage boy, and that's basically him. He wasn't the most fit guy ever, and with the team still being so massively understaffed, he was always burnt out. So I volunteered myself as tribute and took the much larger side of the resort and let him have the smaller end. I didn't mind. Why would I? I normally got stuck on this side, and I like to be alone with my thoughts. Besides, the other side was always the noisy side and was the first to fill up with guests. But to my surprise, it seemed tonight was about to change my theory. The front desk over the radio says, "OP, we have a noise complaint on the first floor by the Bravo wing. I'll be there in 2 minutes." I begrudgingly made my way to the first floor, gathering the nerve to interact with someone who wasn't freshly born or my wife. The moment I opened the service stairway door, I could hear it as plain as day, the disgruntled sounds of a bickering couple. Oh boy, I thought to myself as I could feel my whole body just sigh. I made my way up to the door, walking with the quiet feet one gets after having to master ninja stealth to not wake a sleeping baby. I paused just before I knocked because something that was said by the man in the room just kinda rang in my ears. Man with a voice that sounds of a fat politician. "A count said you didn't mind this." The female with the voice of every 8 to 12-year-old little girl in the world.
"You said we were just gonna go to the spa and help me get away from my parents for a few days."
The moment I heard her respond, something inside me just stopped working. I stood there, frozen. Everything seemed to be muffled and going by too fast, until I heard a door in the room slammed. I snapped back and, without thinking, knocked on the door normally, which was far too loud for this time of night. My voice cracking as I tried to keep myself at a whisper. "Good evening, security?" They told me to refer to us as security when dealing with guests to avoid confusing that loss prevention did the job of both. The male stomps his way to the door in the room, and without opening the door, "What do you want?" Hello, sir. We received a noise complaint. Is everything okay?" "Yes, she's not feeling well, and The female cuts him off, shouting,
"You bet I don't! I'm staying in here for the rest of the trip!"
"Sir, if you could kindly ask her to calm down, that would be very appreciated. If she needs any acetaminophen or anything, please feel free to call the front desk and we'll bring it up." He unbolts and chains the door and steps out. He could easily be in his late 50s and had a look on him that gave me even greater unease. "Thanks for being understanding there, Chief. You know how it is, am I right?" I'm trying not to show it on my face how grossed out I was. Indeed, sir. Again, thank you for understanding, and I hope you two have a good night's rest. He closes the door, and I walk around the corner to call the front desk to report that the call could be marked as resolved and taken out of the system. I then creep back around the corner to make sure that they were quiet. They were. And in an old resort that had walls thinner than tissue paper, I was panicked. Over the next hour, I would hastily make rounds and stop and listen when I was on the floor above them or anywhere close to that room. Not 90 minutes after I talked to them, I heard a shriek. I ran and called Oddball to meet me at the room that there was someone screaming in. During that time, I did convey to him what I heard and what I noticed about them. Seconds later, I'm at the corner of the hall, less than 10 feet away from the room, and I hear her screaming how he tricked her and she wasn't going to do any illicit activities with him. Oddball comes up from the other end of the hall, sweated wet just in time for a lull in the argument. He tells me to stay at the corner so as to not make the guest feel like we were there to single them out. Oddball knocks on the door, and immediately you could hear the audible rummaging around the room. Oddball gives the male a story that he was helping with this side of the resort to help the new young guy and was doing a follow-up. It was only 10 p.m. at the time, so it wasn't a far stretch to think that that was something we would do. Or so I thought. Oddball tells him good night and gestures me to follow him away from the room. He claims you were very loud and interrupted them in the evening and that you took their do not disturb sign away. I was blown away, shocked, and just at a total loss for words. Oddball told me not to bother them for the night, and if anything was to happen, I was to radio him and he'd be the one to talk to them. The rest of the night, I blatantly left the rest of my tasks go and just hovered out of sight from the door's peephole. As the night continued, I was able to catch bits of conversation and gathered that she was 15 and he was married. Time passed and I thought I was just overreacting, until he yelled at her to come out of the bathroom. He had to go and she couldn't stay in there all weekend. How he was her meal ticket and trip home. She must have unlocked the bathroom door and pushed past him and barricaded herself in the little closet area next to the door leading to the hallway. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, I took out the notepad they made us carry around and I wrote on it, "Are you okay?" and slid the paper and note under the door along with my pen. I walked away and made sure my footsteps were able to be heard. Then I watched for what could have been forever, but then it happened. The little piece of paper scooted back out into the hall.
No, I'm stuck here and I don't know what to do.
I took this note and got another piece of paper and wrote, "Do you want me to help you?" But before I ever got that note back, I walked to the front desk, who was basically the boss for the night shift, and slammed the note on her desk and told her to reopen that noise complaint from earlier. Then, that's it. She called Oddball down and they both reprimanded me and sent me home. I was then off for the next 4 days to help my wife with taking our son to appointments. I made sure to text all my friends in housekeeping and told them immediately to check that room and told them what was happening. By the time I returned, all that I could find out was that the girl did want help, and after berating the man, he caved and got her a small room, at peak season cost, for her to have for 6 hours before he canceled the reservation and left. I know this story is long and dry, not to mention there's no big climax at the end or much of anything. However, I'd like to think that I helped give that girl the confidence to say no and in a way save her from his plans. Edit, you're all absolutely right. I should have called law enforcement. At that point, I was still a young 20-something, and even after serving in the military, I never experienced something like that and thought I could trust the judgment of my leadership, even after they failed me. Man, that poor girl must have been really scared, but if she was 15, she should have known better than to just get a hotel room with some random freaking weirdo guy. I mean, there's the chance that he manipulated her, which I guess he did do. He tricked her into thinking, oh, it's just a way for you to get away from your parents. That's all it is. Nothing fishy here. But yes, if you're a teenage girl and a middle-aged man is offering you to go with him for any reason, well, don't take it. Unless, of course, your parents are part of this whole thing and they're aware of it and they trust them, but even then, that's pushing it. Because if you look in the news, if you look for this type of stuff, you'll see how common it is for close family friends to do crap like this to, people's children, which really sucks. But that's just the world. People are horrible and stupid and disgusting, and they all suck. Another way to look at it is, why do they want you away from your parents, right? What do they get out of it? Exactly. This story is called, I Don't Know How to Park There. Hey, I just discovered this board and thought I'd share a few stories from my days in security. One of my favorite dealings with an entitled came from working a convention center parking lot. Obligatory on mobile, bidding is my first thing, to be kind of 96. This was also 7 years ago, and just remember most, but not all, of the dialogue. It was a weekend shift like any other. The end. Just kidding, haha. I was doing usual patrol of the floors when my supervisor called me up to the office. Cast for the story is as follows. Me, supervisor. Karen, I'm a volunteer, so your rules don't apply to me, Karen. Yes, ma'am.
So, the lot is getting full. We barely have enough space left to cover those with monthly passes.
She hands me a little mini map pamphlet.
Go to the east entrance and put up some pylons. If someone wants to come in, ask to see a monthly pass. If they have one, they can come in. If not, then give them the pamphlet that has directions to a block away.
How long do you want me there? Because no one will be patrolling while I'm there.
Hopefully no more than an hour. People should be leaving morning market soon enough. Enough space clean up and you're free to open. I'll radio you when you can.
With that, I take off. Granted, it wasn't a hard pose by any means, and it was a nice sunny day anyways. It went about how you expect it should. Someone would pull up every now and then, and I would only let people with monthly passes in. The rest were all people I had to give the pamphlet to and send them to another lot. And there was no fuss, no muss. They'd say thanks and be on their way. At least until she came.
Hi, move the pylon, please.
Okay, can I just see your monthly pass?
I don't have one. Just move the pylon.
Sorry, ma'am, I can't. We only have enough spaces left for monthly patrons. But if you just follow, she cuts me off.
I volunteer at the art gallery here, so I need to park here. Just move the pylon and hurry up. I'm gonna be late.
Again, I'm sorry. We can't for the moment as we have monthly payers who have spaces. But the pamphlet here shows you where the next lot is. It's only right at the lights there and is about a block east. Karen isn't happy about this. She's offended like I insulted her grandmother or something.
What's your name?
It's OP.
How much do you make?
Like only $10 an hour.
Well, I make nothing because I'm a volunteer. Do you know how little this city would get by without volunteers? That's why I need to park here. Where is it so I can get to where I need to be to keep the city moving?
I'm trying to understand how an art gallery volunteers fits into the keeping the city moving thing. Ma'am, I'm really sorry. It's my job to do as my supervisor says. This is my order at the moment, saying I can't let anyone who isn't a monthly pass holder in. The other lot isn't that far away. Karen is getting annoyed that she still hasn't been let in. She took the pamphlet, but in a fussy voice replied,
I need this lot. I don't know how to park in the other lot.
I'm annoyed she's yelling for something so minor, also a little baffled by her I don't know argument. The yellow lines that make the spaces, the ones you have to drive the car in between, guess what? They're at the other lot too. Just do the same thing there as you would here. Karen is offended and then switched to pissed.
You are not nice at all. I'm reporting you to your supervisor.
With that, she took off. I was on that spot for another 40 minutes or so. Karen never did walk by my way like I thought she would, nor did I hear anything from my supervisor later. Thanks for reading. I fully agree to let this be read on YouTube should anyone want. Well, thank you. Funny thing is, in the time that she took arguing with the security guy, security man, she probably could have been well on her way to that other parking lot, if not already there. But people just love to waste time on things that won't go their way no matter how much time they waste on said thing. This story's called Entitled Resident Doesn't Understand Why We Don't Sympathize with Her. So a little background first. I was working as a guard for a gated community. This was the first job I could get when moved to the state, a northern state to a southern state. At the time, I had moved back in with my parents who had retired there, after living on my own for several years. This was good for me and allowed me to save money and look for my own place. Anyway, this gated community was like 8 miles from my house and can actually see the houses from my house. This is due to the fact that we live in the mountains. I have since moved on from security work and now have a better job with way better pay. I'd say that 90% of the people that lived in this gated community were entitled. To show how entitled these people were when you were on patrol, you had to wave at the residents. If you didn't, they would call down to the main gate and report you. On with the story, sorry for the long intro. So I can't remember why this resident was at the main gate. This happened a number of years ago. Just for reference, the main gate house was a decent size and housed a small kitchen, a bathroom, a closet-sized office for the site supervisor, and the front area where the gate guard was. If I remember right, I was in the gatehouse because it was my lunch break and this woman had come in and was chatting with us. She related that she was unhappy because she was going to have to find a job and she had never worked in her life. That all her husband's investments had tanked and they couldn't afford to live there anymore. There's something I never understood about living at this community, how much people were willing to pay to live there. All these people owned their houses and lots, but still were paying out of the ass for assessments and water. Anyway, this woman got butthurt because we didn't sympathize with her plight. She was basically complaining to 2 people making $2 over minimum wage, and she lives in a fancy house and community. Sorry for the length, I've never had to say that. I have other stories about security I may relate after I see how this one goes. It's funny because my little joke there could be self-deprecating or I could be, bragging or whatever. You'll never know. Anyway, that's really funny. Some really, or I guess formerly rich woman was complaining to minimum wage employees about how her money is running out. That's ironic.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.